Good morning everybody, happy Thursday. So today we're going to be moving on to our next topic of shape. So shape, turns, angles, all these are going to be coming up over the next week or 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, so we'll see. So we're going to start today with looking at some turns. So first of all, I want you to think about what is a turn? What do you think a turn is? So pause the video, have a think, have a chat, and then play the video once you think you know what a turn is. So a turn is to rotate about a point. So if you're facing one way, if you were to turn around, you are going to be, or move around, you're going to be rotating. So that's what a turn is. So we're going to have a look at doing some now. Okay, so we've got some different turns that we're going to have a go at doing. So we've got a whole turn, a quarter turn, a half turn, and 3/4 turns. So what I'd like you to do, I want you to stand up and face the screen. So you're going to be stood facing the screen. Now what you're going to do is I want you to do a whole turn. So going whichever way you want, I want you to do a whole turn all the way until you're back at the start. So have a go at doing that. Then I want you to now have a go at doing a half turn. So thinking if I went the whole way around last time, this time I only want to go a half. So you should be facing the back of the room. And do another half turn to get back to the front. This time we're going to have a go at doing a quarter turn. So thinking like a clock, we only want to go half of a half. So this time, instead of facing the front, we're going to turn so that we are facing the side. So we're going to do a quarter turn. Do a quarter turn to get back to the front. Now if this was a quarter, if we went all the way facing backwards to half, this time we want to do 3/4. So I want to do 1/4, I want to do 2/4, and I want to do 3/4, so now I'm facing this way. So have a practice at turning, doing your turn. So full or a whole turn, quarter turn, half turn, and a 3/4 turn. So now you've had a go at doing some turns, now we can have a look to see what that would look like. So if we have a look at a whole turn, it will be to start from one point and go all the way around. So like on a clock, we would go, the minute hand would go the full way, the whole way around the clock for it to be for a minute to become into the next minute or to the next hour, if you've done their full minutes. So we've got the whole turn that goes all the way around. If we look at the half turn, we've only gone from starting at the top to facing the bottom. So again, if we think of a clock, if we think of half past, we've gone halfway around the clock. A quarter turn, so this time a quarter turn is what we call 90 degrees. It's a right angle. So 90 degrees is a turn. So if you put your hand into an L, so use your left hand, you can make an L. This is what we call a right angle. Okay, it is a 90 degrees turn. So we've gone from facing one way to turning a quarter, or if you think of on a clock, moving till quarter past, that is a quarter. And remember, that's 3 numbers on a clock. And then finally, a 3/4 turn is where we start from 1. We want to turn 1/4 till you've done 1/4, another quarter which will be a half, and then another quarter on top of that as well. So that on a clock, if you imagine if the minute hand was pointing to the 12, if it was to move 3/4 around, it will be pointing to the 9 as it would be 1/4. So it's moved 3/4 around the clock. So I've got some words here, clockwise and anti-clockwise. What do you think that might mean? Have a think, have a discussion, and then come back. So clockwise and anti-clockwise are talking about the direction of which we turn. So clockwise, if we think of the way a clock moves, it moves to the right. So all the hands move right around the clock. And anti-clockwise means where they move left around the clock, so on a left direction. So what I want you to do is I want you to stand up and face the front. Now I want you to practice doing a whole turn. So facing the front, we want to turn clockwise. So thinking we are stood on a clock, and on the floor we want to think of which way the clock would move. It will move right. So if you put your hands up in 2 L's, you can see a way to remember which way is right and left. If you look at your left hand, it looks like an L if you were to write an L, whereas your right hand doesn't look like an L. So with your right hand, I want you to now move a full turn clockwise. So round to the right and all the way back to the front. Okay, now same with the left hand, get your L up, so you know it's your left hand. And this time to move anti-clockwise, which means the opposite, we want to go left this way. So we want to move left anti-clockwise in a full turn. Have a go at doing that, do some practice on that, and then come back. So we can have a look now at clockwise turns on our drawings that we've seen. So we can see, if you look at the arrows, all of the arrows are moving to the right as if it was on a clock. So they move to the right. So we've got a whole turn, a half turn, a quarter turn and a 3/4 turn, and you can see they all start and they move to the right. Now all of mine actually start from the top, but they don't have to start from the top. They could start anywhere, as long as you know that when you turn clockwise you are moving to the right, and when you move anti-clockwise you are moving to the left. So here are the anti-clockwise turns, and this time you can see the difference in the arrows. So instead of them moving to the right, they've all started and moved to the left. Again, mine all start from the top. However, they don't have to start from the top. They could start from a different angle, and as long as you are turning left or moving left, that is going anti-clockwise. So looking at this one, we can compare them. So a whole turn, we can see the arrows move to the right, and anti-clockwise the arrows move to the left. Same with a quarter turn, a half turn and a 3/4 turn, and you can see that. Now what I have done, there are some degrees on there, so we know that you don't need to think about it too much in detail now, but obviously we know in a quarter turn, a right angle, there are 90 degrees. So if there was a full a half, which would be 2/4, we would need to do 90 and 90, which is 180. Then for a 3/4, we would need to add another 90, which will be 270. And for a full circle, a whole circle, we travel 360 degrees because that's 4/4. So now I'd like you to have a go at practicing some turns. So starting from different angles, different places, to practice some turns. So instead of just starting facing one way, what you could do is you could start facing a different way, and you could say, right, from here I'm going to do a whole turn, and I'm going to go clockwise. So I do a full whole turn clockwise. I then might change and I might face a different direction, and I might this time say, right, this time I'm going to do half a turn anti-clockwise. So I'm going to go left and I'm going to do half a turn, so I should be facing the opposite way. Then I might change again and face a different direction, and I might think of something else. So I might say, all right, I'm going to do a quarter turn and I'm going to go clockwise. So I'm going to do a quarter turn clockwise to the right, turn to the right, quarter turn, and there you are. You could also have a go at using an object to do this. So for example, I've got a little money box car, and I'm going to have a go at facing it one way. So I'm going to face it this way. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a go at turning it clockwise a half a turn. So it's going to turn to the right, quarter turn, half a turn. So now the car is facing the other way. If I then said I want to do a clockwise quarter turn, I will turn my car clockwise 90 degrees quarter turn. Then I might say, oh well, I'm going to move it anti-clockwise half a turn, so it goes to the left. So I'm going to go, if you imagine that it is sat on a clock and it wants to go the opposite way of which a clock works. So I'm going to move it half a turn anti-clockwise, so that's quarter, half. So you might want to have a go at using an object to show the movement as well. So I now want you to have a go at writing some directions to get from one place in your house or your garden to another. So you could tell me where you start, you could tell me the different turns you're going to use, whole, half, quarter, 3/4. You're going to tell me if you've moved clockwise or anti-clockwise, the number of steps, when to stop, and where I will end up. So I'm going to show an example now of something that you might want to have a go at doing and get all the detail in there, including all the high-level maths vocabulary that we've just talked about today. So here is my example. So start at the kitchen sink facing the sink. Turn half a turn clockwise, walk 3 steps and stop. Turn a quarter turn clockwise, walk 7 steps and stop. Turn 3/4 anti-clockwise, walk 5 steps and stop. Turn half a turn clockwise, sit down. You should be sat on the sofa now. So that was how I got from my sink to my sofa, because I followed these instructions. So you can have a go at doing something like this. Now what I would suggest doing is for you to have a go at doing it first. So for you to face something or to sit down or to start somewhere, That will be your first instruction, and your final instruction will be when you end up wherever you are and you need to get between them. Now what I would suggest doing is for you to walk it through. So think exactly what you have done. Have you turned? Have you walked? Have you gone clockwise, anti-clockwise? Have you stopped, started? So I want you to have a go at doing that first. Then write down your instructions, or you might want to write them as you're going along. That'll be a good idea, because then you can make sure that every single step you do or every single turn you do, you write down. Then once you have had a go at doing that, you could then ask one of your family members or your siblings to have a go at completing your instructions, your directions. So, and then to see, do they start and end where you have sent them? Or have they got stuck in the middle? For example, you don't want them sitting down in the middle of the kitchen if you haven't got them to the sofa yet. So you need to make sure that your examples, your directions are really clear. Because if not, if they don't get to where you're trying to get them to end up, you might want to go and slightly adjust them so that they end up in the correct place. Rather than being sat on the kitchen floor, you want them to be sat on the sofa. So you might then need to go and tweak your directions to make sure that that's where, because you'll be able to see where they went, where the instructions went wrong. So have a go at doing that. I'd love to see your instructions, your directions. It will be also really good to see if they actually work, so you could be reading them out while somebody else is doing it. You could film them moving, and I'd love to see everything where you actually end up, or if your directions have worked. So have fun, and I'll be in touch tomorrow.